I dipped my toes in a little bit of everything. But the interesting thing about that is that that's part of the journey, right? Figuring out who we are, where we want to be, and then getting on that path to getting there.
Mhm.
My childhood, I had a don't get me wrong, I had a great childhood, but I had no direction. I had no idea where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. So when I found the military, it was just like, wow, this is it. Like this is what I want to do. And then I lost my arm, and it all just came crashing down. I mean, I wanted to spend my life in a combat arms career, and then
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man.
Hey there, thank you for joining the Audacious Living Podcast. Of course, our ongoing goal is to empower and inspire our listeners to live their most audacious lives ever. And I want to express my gratitude to our listeners for joining us here today and for choosing to spend some time with us. Now, imagine the journey from being a combat amputee to becoming an endurance athlete as a powerful transformation. I oftentimes use the example of the caterpillar, but the caterpillar is so fitting in terms of the metamorphosizing into a butterfly. In our upcoming interview with Rich Ingram, we delve into the incredible journey of resilience, perseverance, and triumph. Rich is absolutely a remarkable individual who's defied the odds by transforming the struggles as a combat amputee into an inspirational story of becoming an endurance athlete and so much more. His unwavering determination and positive mindset have been instrumental in shaping his path to success. Rich's journey perfectly aligns with the theme of this episode, showcasing the power of resilience, determination, and perseverance in overcoming challenges and achieving greatness. So let's take this time and turn to our conversation with Rich Ingram. Enjoy. Hey, Rich, thank you for joining me here on the Audacious Living Podcast. It's a pleasure for you to make the time, and thank you for doing this.
yeah, no, I appreciate it, Ollie. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, as I was saying, I feel blessed at the opportunity to be able to engage in these hearty and fruitful conversations and really some cool stuff, right? In terms of getting people to a better place, and everyone certainly has a story of value that they can share with others, and that's really, really important. A big thing that we talk about, and I'll get you sort of chime in here, is this adversity and what that means on our life paths, right? And we to get to this best audacious life, we're going to run through challenges. We're going to see pitfalls, hurdles, obstacles. We're going to see all that kind of stuff. As a guy that does endurance runs, a runner, for example, or athlete, full well what that's all about. Like it's you got to keep going, keep pushing forward. And so maybe as a starting point, we'll get you to sort of share a little bit about your journey and what you're up to and what's got you to the point that we're at now.
Yeah, yeah. So in brevity, I went to college right out of high school, but while I was in college, I joined the National Guard, and that's when I got orders to deploy. So that was in 2005. My brigade
Yep.
deployed to Iraq. So we were in an area just southwest of Baghdad,
Hmm.
and during that deployment, that's when I lost my arm. We were in an enemy ambush, and it was an event that obviously changed my life.
Yes.
But at the same time, I think the events that transpired really put me in a better place.
Yep.
And so I always tell people, I wouldn't change a thing because the things that I've learned had just been so amazing.
Hmm.
And so it was difficult there for a while. But while I was rehabilitating in the hospital, I started doing triathlon and endurance sports, and when I started getting good at these things, and I asked myself, like, why can't I go back in? And because I was enlisted before they retired me, and so I ended up challenging medical policy. I came back in as an officer and deployed 3 more times, and as a combat arms officer before I retired again. So I retired twice. And after I retired the second time, went into corporate America and held leadership positions there, and did that for about 5 years.
Hmm.
When I got married, my wife was like, "Look, you're working, 6, sometimes 7 days a week, because I'm a light switch, right? And you're making gonna have a salary job, which
Sure.
it was good money. Don't get me wrong, but
Yep.
she's like, look, let's try something in sales or whatever, business ownership, and you work the same amount of hours, you should double your income." And I did that. So I started a business selling insurance. So I started an agency
Okay.
selling insurance, and then I realized during that time that I'd rather cut my right arm off than continue to sell insurance. And so, so I sold that profitably, and then that's how I got to where I'm at. I started getting requests to speak, and a couple other questions like, "Hey, wait, you writing a book? When's the book coming out?" And so I just started listening to some of this stuff. And one thing that's always been true for me is that I'm a motivator, and I love motivating other people. I love because man, after I lost my arm, I was at ground zero, right? I had to reinvent myself. And when I was a military leader, watching those soldiers when they first came in, and then watching them raise the ranks, I mean, you
Hmm.
feel it is in it. I can't describe, like, I mean, it's a labor of love, but you see those, I mean, the kids like they're your own children, and then to
Right.
watch them grow is just amazing. And so that's what I do now. I'm still an endurance athlete, and now I'm a speaker. So I'm a motivational speaker, and go out and try and change the world one speech at a time.
I mean, so first off, Rich, thank you for sharing. I mean, listening to your story, it almost sounds like you've had like three different lives, right? You've got your career in the military, your athlete as an endurance runner, and your athlete, and all that's associated with that, and then in the business world, like I think you've got them all covered. It feels like.
Yeah, I dip my toes in a little bit of everything. But the interesting thing about that is that that's part of the journey, right? Figuring out who we are, where we want to be, and then getting on that path to getting there.
Mhm.
My childhood, I had a don't get me wrong, I had a great childhood, but I had no direction. I had no idea where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. So when I found the military, it was just like, wow, this is it. Like, this is what I want to do. And then I lost my arm, and it all just came crashing down. I mean, I wanted to spend my life in a combat arms career, and then that came crashing down. So I had to reinvent. And then when I
Right.
got out the second time, I still missed the military. I mean, I didn't really want to leave, but my time was up. And so then it's like, okay, I have to figure out, what's the next step for me. So,
Right.
it's just like a bowling ball going down, in
Yep.
the alleys with the little bumper pools. So yeah, a lot of different transitions there.
What how I wonder if you could talk about the losing your arm in that accident. How long were you in the military before that accident took place?
So let's see. I guess in 2003 is when I joined, and then that was 2005. So
Oh,
about 2 years, two
shortly
and a
after.
half years. Yeah.
Oh. And can you describe kind of how it happened, or is that
Yeah, no, absolutely. So just to kind of preface it, we arrived in Iraq, and so this was southwest of Baghdad. It was an area. It was called the Triangle of Death, if that said anything. So we got there in May of 2005, and our first mission happened like within 2 days. Our
yeah,
base got mortared, and so we went to find these guys. And I just remember hearing when we got on the objective Ingram take point, and my life started. I mean, I have waited my entire life for that moment. And so that just emboldened my passion for soldiering. And so I volunteered for every single mission. I mean, anything that I could. And we were doing things that you did in video games, right? Like setting up, we call them LPOPs, or sniper observation posts. And so on this particular day, this is mid-July, July 20th, we were on a reconnaissance patrol,
mhm,
and is a 4 vehicle Humvee patrol. I was the rear gunner. And so back then, we didn't have the up armored vehicles, the ambush protected vehicles. So half my body is exposed out of the vehicle. And as the
right.
rear gunner, I'm on the 50 cal, and I'm watching rear security. And I mean, just out of nowhere, we struck a roadside bomb, and you know, it was not how I'd envisioned the fight going down that day,
Right.
but it is what it is. And so, I mean, when that happened, immediately, I mean, the vehicle got catapulted in the air and thrown into a roll, and I just remember, you know, just like my training, dropping down in the gunner's hatch, trying to grab the radio mount.
Right.
And I just remember saying to myself, lights out, say a prayer. I mean, I knew I was going to die because gunners don't survive that.
Mm.
And, but I didn't. I landed, and I remember it was a surreal event for me when I hit the ground, and I it's like I'm alive. But when I looked up, I saw that our driver was unconscious in the passenger seat of the Humvee.
Okay.
And I went to make a move towards him, and I felt what I thought was just a broken arm. It was just achy.
Yeah.
And so I took my right arm and I tried to feel for the brake, and my hand just missed my, like, it hit
Wow.
nothing. Yeah. And I mean, I looked down and my arm is just mangled, laying on the ground, bloody uniform, and it's hanging on by a piece of flesh no bigger than your pinky finger. And,
Hmm.
you know, I was just like, I'm not freaking dying here. So
Right.
I just picked my arm up, ran with it, and my driver came to and put a tourniquet on me, saved my life, and
Wow.
waited for the medevac chopper. So it was an interesting day. But you know, I'll tell you, every soldier, every person knew exactly what to do. I mean, we had rehearsed these type of events. I mean, we had done them live. I mean, it
Yep.
wasn't the first time that we had been struck by a bomb.
Hmm.
So you know, I was fortunate to have a really good team of dudes.
Wow. And that's so important to have that support system, right? The other point you made about you know, you're gonna there's lots of time preparing, right? Like you prepare for all kinds of scenarios, whether this fell into that in your school preparation or not. There's aspects I would imagine of the preparation to somewhat get you ready, although it's not going to be perfect, but at least somewhat, I'd imagine.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, it's that's life too, right? I mean, and that's one of the things that I talk about is resiliently posturing, and I mean, if we can look at things like a battle drill and rehearse for these things, then we can posture better to withstand that adversity. And in the military, you know, there's an adage that we don't train until we get it right. We train until we can't get it wrong. We
Mm,
don't just say, "Oh, we've arrived. Let's go out for beers." No, it's again, again,
right.
again. And you know, the guys that day and all the times before that on these missions, I mean, we proved that technique works. You
Right.
have to practice. And yeah, you're right. I mean, a plane's never going to survive first contact, but you always default to these things. So I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not the smartest guy. So the more that I can rehearse and practice something and have something to default to,
Right. Right.
the better positioned I'm going to be to continue moving forward. So.
Mm. The other thing that I absolutely love when you know when you saw the condition of your arm, you're like, it's not today. I'm still gonna push forward. Like you're
No,
that.
yeah, not today. There were some expletives there, but it's like I'm not dying here, man. This is my time. I just made it through that. Cause
But Rich,
that
how are you so sure of that? I mean, I have no idea what it is to look at my mangled arm in an accident, so I have no context to be able to refer to. But I still would imagine, and this is all speculation on my part, not knowing, but I would
yeah.
imagine you're looking at that situation like it's the worst possible case scenario, but yet you still felt like, yeah, no, not today. Where does that come from?
Not well, because I felt I guess at that point I was in control. I mean, when we got struck by that by the we call it an IED, improvised explosive device, I had no control over what was happening. I mean, I
Right.
thought when we started to, I was just surprised that I made it through the bomb, and then we started to roll, and I was just thinking my head was going to get crushed. But when we were on the ground, I mean, I had a tourniquet in my pocket. If no one else had come, I'd have put a tourniquet on myself.
Mm,
But I felt a little bit of control there, and I mean, I don't know. I mean, I trusted the guys around me, and you know, we had a security perimeter established, and yeah, I mean, to me,
yeah.
it's dude, you keep moving till somebody takes you down, you know, or
Yeah, I
well,
love that.
you know,
That's
till you can't keep moving.
that relentless spirit, man. I absolutely love that, and it's so inspiring to hear. And then, okay, so you go through this life changing event. Your whole world is upside down, um, but then you're instrumental in going back and then changing legislation around how allowing amputees to be in service.
Right, right. So we guys had suffered casualties like that, become amputees, and returned to service. So let's say you were an enlisted soldier, you were a sergeant or whatever. Guys had returned to the units as sergeants, or you're a captain. They had returned as a captain, but no one had ever lost their arm, enlisted, retired, and then gone through a commissioning process to become an officer as an amputee. And so for me, again, say I wasn't that smart. That's why I just, hey, the military is all I know. I'm just going to keep staying the course. Um, I just, I knew what the military was about. I knew what you had to do. I had this physical prowess that, it's just, man, I'm not letting you guys write my story.
Right,
This was a goal. And, I think that I had the ability to meet and exceed the standard. There's no reason why I shouldn't be able to fight for my country.
right.
And so I was doing an internship with a state senator in Georgia while I was in college. I took a semester off to do that, and that's how we started. He asked me, he's like, what do you want to do after this? I was like, well, sorry, actually I got something lined up with Merrill Lynch, but I'd really like to go back in the Army. And
Wow.
next thing I know, I'm in Washington D.C. talking to a General and President Bush's staff, and that got the wheels spinning. And it was by no way easy, right? I mean, there were
Sure, sure.
times where it was, hey, Rich, we don't think this is going to happen. We'd love for you to stay in the program, but this is it. This is reality. And so I just stuck with it. It's like, what else I got to lose? I still got to
Hmm.
be here for college. Um, and so yeah, I'd like to do a study or some research. I've tried to contact a couple of people to see how if other amputees followed,
Yep.
and were able to do that. But yeah, I mean, and it goes back to anybody should be able to fight for the country if you can meet a standard. And this is just my opinion, and I don't put politics into anything. If you're a man, woman, whatever you call yourself, black, white, yellow, purple, you want to go fight for your country for
Right,
freedom,
right.
then hey man, if you can meet the standard, I mean, why were we telling them females they couldn't join the infantry? If
Mm.
as long as they can meet the standard, and I
Yep.
was very strong with that. Hey, look, if I can't meet the standard, then hey, I
Right,
gave it a shot.
right,
But if I
right.
can, you need to give me a shot.
Mm.
And so yeah, man, I just stayed the course and worked. And that was it. We made it happen.
Amazing, amazing, and so inspiring again. And what you've done for others coming behind you is just outstanding. And so, um, yeah, that's great to hear. So that when you finally retired for the second time, and your military service was confirmed to be done, you then moved into sort of the business space. Is that correct, or what did you, or were you
That's
doing the
that's
endurance stuff at the same time?
So, I was always a runner, and I kind of put the triathlon stuff on hold when I went back in the second time, but I kept running. I mean, you have to run. I was at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. It's kind of the tip of the spear for the Army, and but on one of my deployments, I went on leave and I signed up for a marathon and I ran in like 3 hours, and I was like, man, I'm not too bad at this thing. And so I just started running for hours, and that was kind of what sparked my love for it. And I'll tell you, another reason why I still do it to this day is because look, I was in when I talk about I had no direction growing up. I mean, I was raised in an affluent family, and my
Hmm.
parents met at medical school, so I had no reason for want, right? But I did my and I really you know I I don't know what was going on. My dad worked a lot, and I saw him doing, like he was gone when I woke up, gone when I went to bed. And so I just really didn't have that guidance. We didn't do things with our father, my
Right.
siblings, like I saw other kids doing. And so,
Hmm.
man, I started partying. I was a drinker and a fighter. I landed myself in rehab at 15, youth detention center at 17. Fortunate enough that, I made it out alive, but also fortunate enough that I had a juvenile record that was, swept clean, so to
Gotcha.
speak. So
Yep.
for me, running
Yep.
kind of, it keeps me out of that. Now, and now, I mean, I run over 12 hours a week.
Wow.
And to be able to do that, and now I have a family, kids, and a wife, but it helps me maintain my emotional stability.
Sure.
It helps me show up positively for the people that I care about, for clients, for it is very time consuming. So I have to be intentional with all the work that I
Yep.
do
Yep.
and how I spend my time. So it directly correlates with that. But I would say, I really got back into it when I went into oil and gas right out of the military. I was single. So I mean, I was at work. I woke up and it was dark outside. I was going to work. I mean, what else did I have to do? I didn't have
Sure.
anybody to care for.
Sure.
But when I started my small business, I just injured my ankle just wrestling around with a little cousin. And so, and I started my oldest daughter called the couch my bed. And I was like, okay, this is not how I'm going to raise my children or the figure that I want to be in front of them. And so that's when I got back into it. And man, look, I had torn my hamstring while I was in the military. And so I was trying to get over that. And it hurt. It hurt for a couple months, but I kept going through all the pain
Sure.
and miraculously the pain went away. I signed up for an ultra marathon and fell in love. And the rest is history. And but yeah, I'm a very addicted runner, and I would really just say physical, any kind of physical fitness as soon as just get me out there trying to grow and make myself better, dude. I'm in. You call me. um
I, s- I
yeah.
so I so love the way that you recognize that you weren't satisfied with who you are, and your picture of yourself was different than the life that you're living, and you were going to do something different to change that. Hence, let me pick up running, and so it's just wonderful. And I guess in this case, the motivation of your children a little bit helped, and that's fine. Whatever our motivator
Yeah.
is that for sure. I mean, actually, that's not a bad one at all, quite frankly. But I think it's a good that you had that, and just love the way you're able to progress forward with that. I wonder if you can talk, because and I find also interesting endurance. Is your area of focus, because you think of the themes of going back with your military experience. I'm not giving up today. Today's not the day. Now you're an endurance runner. It seems that there's a nice correlation, if you will, between the
there
two.
there is, there are two types of people that I'd be willing to hire without interviewing, and that would be an endurance athlete and a military service member. And with endurance, I mean, you're exactly right. You are used to, and I say used to, it becomes a habit to
Mm,
get used to, um doing the thing that you don't want to do, getting, hey, we got to be wherever at 2 a.m. We're not going to get sleep tonight. Okay, we got to, whatever it is in the military. I had to wake up at, I think, 12:30 or 1 the other morning to get in a 5+ hour run because it's so hot in Austin, Texas. And man, I'm gonna say I was dying towards the end of it. It was everything that I could do. For whatever reason, my body, because once you get past 3 hours, the way that you eat is different.
yep.
3 hours, you can still eat all the sweet stuff. But anyways, but my body, I could not eat. I don't know what was happening. And it was everything I could do to, I just said, okay, I'm gonna make it to this mileage. I'm gonna make it to this mileage without walking. Now, because in ultras you do a lot of walking, but
Sure.
I wanted to work the engine. And when I finally got done, I flicked my watch off. I bent down to pick up my cooler because I always have a resupply
Yeah.
where I'll do like a loop. I picked up my cooler, and I fell over into a tree because I was so nutrient depleted or deficient
Mm.
that I was on the verge of passing out. And And I was just thinking to myself, the only thing that came to mind was like, that was a good run. Because you're proud. There's a sense of just self-worth when, hey, you accomplished what you said you were going to accomplish. And that's why running and endurance stuff is so fun. I mean, it's hard. It's
Mhm.
hard. So when you get it done,
Sure.
oh man, it's amazing.
I love it. I
I'm
love
not
it.
advocating to go out and run till you pass out every time,
No,
but it is good every now and
but it's
then.
an experience that you had nonetheless, so you can speak to, so that's fine.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
that's right.
So maybe we could talk about how um, these experiences, military and again with the endurance running, have fed now and helped you in the business world.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and it's I like that question because I was actually talking to my mom. She's on my board, and so my dad. So they're still living active parts of my life.
Mhm.
But I got an inquiry for speaking on a topic that I don't normally do, but I've thought about doing.
Mhm.
And so they told me the date. The client told me the date of when it was, and I was like, huh, okay. So I have a good amount of time to recreate because speaking world we don't. I do not customize speeches for people. Now, when I say that, there might be like maybe six parts where I can in like two sentences say something about what they do. So like
Sure,
you're in computer sales versus car sales or whatever it
sure.
is. But for the most part, it's the same thing because it takes a lot. I mean, we rehearse all the time to make it right. And so to craft a new speech, I mean, that's a months long process if you're going to make it work the way that it should and
Right.
provide value. So, but anyways, the reason why I bring that up is because I was talking to my mom, I was like, it's so funny that I've been talking about introducing this new talk, but I never had a date for it, right? So it was
Mm,
just open ended. But now I have a date. The same exact way is I have a race coming up. Whatever
yes.
that date is. Now I can backwards plan in the same way that I would make a training schedule. I block time for every day. I'm going to work a certain amount of time. Okay, well, I need to be done with the creation part in 6 weeks, and that's when I need to start rehearsal. Okay,
Mm,
so my rehearsal time needs to start there, and we have a 7-step rehearsal process, which does include creativity and all that stuff. So now, and it is a little bit of the military, but it's goal setting, right? I mean, we
yes.
we we,
Yes.
we have this date, we know that we need to be done by then, and then now I know, boom, boom, boom. This is where
Gotta
I need to
go.
be at
Right.
this, and
Right.
so is directly correlative, and I also call it challenge immersion. So for me, challenge immersion is another one of those things that I believe resiliently postures us to just catapult either into different levels or to pick ourselves up and move out. And what it is it's so one, my framework of raw resilience is purpose,
Okay.
mindset, and process. Okay,
Okay.
so purpose, mindset, and process. So I believe that purpose is the true motivator of anything. If in what I mean by that is my purpose is not to be a runner. My purpose was not to be a soldier. Albeit I thought it was, and that's why when I lost my arm, everything came crashing down.
Right.
When I look at that, I need to say, well, I need to start off. If I pull out of 7-Eleven this afternoon and get hit by a Mack truck and I can no longer walk at the end of the day, is the purpose that I had at the beginning of the day the purpose that I have now?
Mm,
And if it isn't, that's not your purpose.
mm,
If it is, hey, you're on the right track. And you can
yes.
always keep peeling it back. But
Yes.
that's where we always start with. And once you find your purpose, the way that that's part of this challenge immersion is now find something you're truly passionate about and come up with some kind of ambitious target. So obvious example is, okay, I want to do a 100 miler. Okay, well, 100 miler is set for this date. Now I have to plan for this challenge, and I'm going to do something every single day to get me closer to achieving that goal. And what that does is, because it's tough, we're all busy, but I'm always going to make time, whether I
Right.
have to stay up later, wake up earlier, not go on the beach trip with the girls or whatever it is. I have to make some sacrifices to stay on this, immerse myself in this challenge. And what it does is it allows me to get used to minimal adversity, to almost like controlled adversity, because it's hard and it's challenging. But that's why I call it challenge immersion. And then the biggest thing about it is you need to know what the next challenge is, because as soon
Yep.
as you achieve that one, you can't fall. You
Right.
have to keep going,
Yep.
because we have never arrived, right? We're
Yep.
always in process. And so anyways, that is how endurance sports helps me in business,
Sure.
because it allows me to line everything up. Everything has a goal, everything has a target, and then I backwards plan to get there. And that's it.
I, I, I I love the perspective that it offers, and for you to articulate that in the manner which you did is, I think it's bang on perfect, because all that you said is correct. In the business world, we are going to see adversity. There'll be a different type of adversity, but we're going to see adversity nonetheless. And what do you do next? And when you sort of talked about your purpose, right? That is so important. The purpose is what's going to give you that extra fuel when you think you've had enough, or the extra push, if you will, because you're remembering, yeah, this is what I'm working towards, this thing over there, and I'm only halfway, and I still got X period of time or X amount of work to do to get there. So this is what I'm pushing towards, and then you get there, you're like, okay, right? I equate it in some respects to like climbing a mountain, right? Like I got to get to the top of that mountain. The key, though, is you understand is it doesn't stop at that mountain, because there's always another mountain. There's always a bigger mountain to go after,
Yeah.
right? So it's not like, hey, my life is good and I'm over now because I've done everything possible. No, there's more too. And so the idea is that you keep pushing very, very quickly. So I've got this what I call a bold framework, right? The bold framework to help you live a much more audacious life. And bold is an acronym, BOLD. The first letter B is better than yesterday.
There
So
you go.
essentially, everything that you've done last week or yesterday, anything prior to today, that's fantastic. And I really hope you celebrated yesterday when it took place. But you can't be celebrating today, because there's something you got to do that's better than that. And there's always something more you can do, right? And so that's very much in line with what we're talking about. Just to round it up, the rest of that framework, the O stands for last adversity, which you know a lot about. You've obviously done that in many aspects of your life. The L stands for living your truth, which is really encouraging us to be authentic in our actions and who we are and how we shape and how we present ourselves with the world. And then lastly is disrupt the norm, and that's be a trailblazer, if you will. The Wright brothers, I'm sure they got laughed at when they were trying to build a plane, and people said, no, it'll never happen. And why are you wasting your time, and you're crazy, is now a way of life. So that's the framework.
Right.
But
What is I love it. So that's why mine is raw resilience. And so the raw part comes from being true mainly to yourself,
okay.
because too often we try and either compare ourselves to others, or when we do a deep dive, whether you want to call it soul searching or whatever. I mean, you need to know who you are, but it's
Yeah.
so easy to lie to yourself, because you believe
Yes.
those lies. You believe them for so long
Yes.
that, look, man, you need to take a raw inventory of what you have and where you truly want to be, not where you think other people want to see you, or
Yes.
what do you want to do. And so I think that that's so important, and it's being a disruptor part too. It kind of goes along with that, dude. There's going to be naysayers the entire path,
Yep.
and I think that that goes kind of to the mindset part of my framework, is that you know we have to realize that the pains, the adversity, and the challenges that we face
Yep.
are just a part of the journey. they're
Mm-hmm.
they're not, they don't last forever, the same way that your gains, the emotions that you feel when you get a win, they don't
Mm-hmm.
last forever.
Yeah.
Those, like, okay, I hadn't made any sales this week or this month or whatever it is, dude. Okay, like, don't lie to yourself like that. That's not great. But now let's take a dive in and be like, hey, what could I do better? Let's use this
Yeah.
opportunity
Now
to
what?
catapult forward. Yeah. Now
Yeah.
what? Like,
Mm-hmm.
let's go.
Yeah.
Um, so I love it. I love it.
Man, Rich, this has been awesome. It really has. I've loved your journey. I love your uh, 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 the perspective you've taken on the experiences that you had. Because I mean, our experiences shape us in so many ways. They really, really do. And
Absolutely.
I think our response to those experiences is part of the shaping process, right? And so something happens. You can deem it bad or not. That's totally on you, but what happens after that is also totally on you. And if you feel this bad thing that's happened is going to make you wallow and curl up in a ball and not do nothing, that's on you. Or if you think this thing that's happened to you is an opportunity for you to rise above that and then take those lessons, those experiences, and motivate those others, then it's two entirely different viewpoints on the same situation that took place. And so I'm really happy the one that you took, man.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. And I always say, don't waste the failure, or
Yeah.
don't waste the negative feeling. Like whenever I'm feeling anxious or whatever, okay, well, your brain is telling you something. I always start journaling. Why am I feeling this way? And then you
Yep.
go, blah, blah, blah. And then I can try and come out with a new plan. But we are the most vulnerable in a positive way to be transformed when we are not stable.
Mm.
When we are stable and you want to make a change in your life, you want to create new habits, it's hard. It's hard because you're still firm. But when you're going through whether it be trauma or challenging times, don't waste that, because that's when you can be the most transformative and make a change.
Awesome. Awesome. Rich, for our listeners that want to learn more about you, catch up with you, or connect with you, where can we send them?
RichIngram.com. That's it. All my socials are on there. And yeah, RichIngram.com. Please contact me if you'd like to hear more.
For sure. Well, listen, I super, super appreciate the opportunity to connect with you. Again, love the mission, love the response to adversity, and love the fact that you're now using that to impact and encourage others in a profound way. So, congratulations, all the best, and keep up the good work, my
Thanks,
friend.
Audley. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Back we here on the podcast, and in our conversation with Rich, we were reminded of that no obstacle is insurmountable and no dream is too lofty to achieve. Rich's story serves as a testament to the incredible strength that lies within all of us, urging us to embrace our challenges and turn them into catalysts for growth and transformation. For those inspired by Rich's story and wanting to connect with him directly, certainly you can find his contact details in the show notes below. Reach out to him and learn more about his journey, or to seek motivation and guidance on your own path to audacious living. Keep an eye out for special offers or products that Rich may be providing to further support and empower his audience on their audacious living journeys. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the podcast. If you've enjoyed the Audacious Living podcast today, please like, follow, subscribe, or share if you haven't already done so. Of course, this is how we are able to reach even more listeners and continue to spread motivation and inspiration. Stay audacious in the pursuit of your dreams, and remember that life you desire is definitely within your reach.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.